Got a lot going on. And SEC, again, a couple of weeks from kicking off. ACC's kicking off this week, but SEC still got a couple of weeks. Texas A&M has been my number 2 predicted in the SEC West for a little while now. Pretty clear-cut number 2, at least when I put the numbers together that we'll talk a whole lot more about next week. Jamon Osborne is key for them. He is a wide receiver. He's an experienced guy. He's one that you have penciled in. And, well, not even penciled. You just written his name in pen. And so our guy, Brian Perrone, in Jimbo Fisher's press conference, I believe it was today, asked Jimbo Fisher, this is a good observation, man. He said, we hadn't really seen Jamon Osborne. Is he okay? Where's he been? And Jimbo Fisher said, he's taken time to reflect on some things. Huh. Well, okay. Well, he didn't say he's out of the program. In fact, Jimbo Fisher went on to specifically say he's still with us, kind of in the sense that my several years old boxer back home, he's still with us. So Jamon Osborne, he's still with us. I don't know what in the world that means, but to say the least, there is some concern in Aggie land because you keep in mind they've also lost Baylor Cupp again. Now, they got some talented options behind him, and for that matter, they got some talented young guys at receiver. Established, experienced, I don't know that I could view them as that. And this is another situation where they may get Vandy in week 1. They got Bama in week 2. So if you want to make some noise in the SEC West, you got to be clicking on all cylinders. You got experience at quarterback. Who in the world he's throwing to? Not so sure right now. Now, this could all be rendered moot if we see Osborne back at practice tomorrow or next day. So keep an eye on that. At Tennessee, offensive strategy, offensive philosophy, I don't think there's much mystery what Jeremy Pruitt and Jim Chaney more specifically are trying to do there this year. Now, a lot of folks have made a big deal, rightfully so, about keying in on programs that return the same head coach and the same offensive coordinator and the same quarterback and most of the same offensive line talent. And Tennessee fits all these descriptions, but yet the same people who make those arguments would never in a million years circle Tennessee as a team to watch. Why? They don't believe in the personnel. They don't believe in Jared Garantano. I'm not going to sit here and tout him as a preseason All-American by any stretch of the imagination, but what I am saying is Jeremy Pruitt's probably looking at the situation and saying, we open against South Carolina. We think we're better than them. We think we got a better roster. They've also got questions at quarterback right now. They don't have it nailed down. Week 2, we play Missouri. We're just flat out better than them. Week 3, we play Georgia. They have no clue who their quarterback's going to be. So we at least have continuity and consistency there. We know who it's going to be. We're not trying to install all this new stuff on the fly on a condensed, truncated timetable. And so we could shock some people. But the way we're going to have to do it is not by throwing the ball 55 times in a game. We got to take a sledgehammer to people's kneecaps. That's how we can beat them. We got the offensive line to do it. We got the running back skill to do it. And so we got to be consistent enough offensively. But see, that only works if your defense is taking care of things. And I don't know how many of you have been paying attention. Out of Knoxville recently, there's been some really, really tough love being dealt by this guy, Jeremy Pruitt, to his defensive front. Not even the first time he's done it. This week was the latest example, but he's been very critical of them. And I don't think it's for show. I don't think it's window dressing at all. I don't think he has liked what he's seen at all from the lack of pressure that they've been generating. I think they've been very poor at tackling. And you say, oh, well, that's to be expected. No, it's not to be expected. It may be to be excused in some people's eyes, but this is not a program who has 5-5 aspirations either. Their Vegas over-under win total may be floating around there, but Jeremy Pruitt doesn't care about that. That guy wants to win the East this year, not in 2023. And so I think they've got the horses defensively. I don't think they're lacking for bodies, but we've seen with Texas, for example, we've seen Brennan Eagles at Texas, guy who's a returning starter, and so you just assume, all right, well, I'm the leader in the clubhouse now. No, guy's been bypassed. Still going to play, but he's been bypassed. I think they may have a little of that that's crept into the Tennessee locker room too. Still got a little time to rectify that, but man, he's been very critical. Check out some of those sound bites. It's just, he's pulled no punches when talking about his defensive front. At South Carolina, a lot of sudden optimism about the offense. They got 2 quarterbacks that they think they can win with. Ryan Helinski was probably just assumed to be the starter. Colin Hill giving him a run for his money. A lot of people there believe Colin Hill probably even leads to a certain degree in that quarterback battle. Our folks over at thebigspur.com have had a ton of really money intel on that quarterback battle. I've been excited to read about Deshaun Fenwick. Coming out of this last scrimmage that South Carolina had, Deshaun Fenwick is a guy that I think they have to have step up because they lost Marshawn Lloyd, who was, even as a true freshman, going to be one of the breakout candidates in all of college football, regardless of position. And they lost him, and I mean, that was a gut punch. That was like one of those, you find out about it, you just want to go home the rest of the day. And so they need guys like Fenwick to step up. I really question, you could prove me wrong, of course that always could happen, but I really question whether the personnel they have at places like receiver and offensive line, but really specifically guys like Fenwick, they have to have so many guys step up and play at a high level to put a competitive product on the field, and I'm sure a few will, but I'm talking about all of them doing it, or a critical mass of them doing it. But I'll tell you another thing that has them excited, people who have been fortunate enough to watch practice there, a lot of them are excited about Mike Bobo and what you would refer to as kind of just more progression-based play calling. Now, it's very simple conceptually. That's just like playing chess, making a move with your next move, and second to next move, and third to next move, all already in your head somewhere. Well, that's how the best play callers usually call plays, instead of the Xbox crowd, which runs the halfback keeper, and then we're going to run 10-yard slants, and like you weren't even thinking about 10-yard slants when you called the halfback keeper. So that's just play to play to play, and right or wrong, the perception is that's what Brian McClendon was guilty of. So Mike Bobo, certainly not guilty of that. I didn't think anyone ever doubted that he would be guilty of it, but here's the big question that won't be answered for a while. I had someone today reach out to me and say, just open-ended question. Do you think that some head coaches are just incapable of allowing their offense to succeed, allowing their offense to win? And so I took that and I ran with it in the direction of Will Muschamp. That is the allegation against Muschamp. I think it is somewhat deserved. But I also think as much as you may make that claim, I could come back and I could counter and say, Ed Orgeron, circa 2018, would never have allowed LSU circa 2020 to happen, or 2019 to happen, because they had some of the same personnel. They handled it totally different. Ed Orgeron was smart enough to not allow his feet to get cemented into one way of doing things. And so he 180'd the entire offensive philosophy of the program, and he got out of the way. Will Muschamp's not done that to this point. Never has. Is this the first time, and here's the question, is this the first time Muschamp has got an offensive coordinator in the house that he fully trusts handing the keys to the car over to? That's the TBD. That is the to be determined with South Carolina. Florida is in a very good place. Florida was very wise, and Dan Mullen was very wise and somewhat lucky at the same time about how they front-loaded their practice schedule. What Mullen did is he said, all right, we got this much time to get this many practices in. Let's put all of our let's put all of our most physical work on the front end so that if we can't get it all in, we can push them down the line. But they went about it that way, and they got everything in. They haven't had big COVID outbreaks. And so as a result, they're miles ahead of a program like Tennessee right now, who's had trouble, and they've had to delay practices and cancel practices or work with a skeleton crew. I mean, Mullen told the media down there yesterday or day before yesterday, we're going to do some conditioning. We're going to do some lifting over the next week. And that's not normally what you would hear a few weeks into camp. You got a couple of weeks till you're about to play, but he's almost treating it at this point like a bye week. And I feel really good about where they are. They open against Ole Miss, who has had just a nightmare internally dealing with COVID over there. So, I've talked about Florida. It's the most exciting team to me to watch in week one. It will be the closest to a finished product offensively out of any of these contenders that we'll probably see in week one. So, offensive line, some of the things you hear about that, specifically maybe some guys who have worked their way back into the rotation. Is it a case where they've improved, or do you not have any other options? It's not like I'm ready to just put my full stamp of endorsement on the forehead of Florida, but I feel really good about where Florida is relative to maybe some of their other brethren in the SEC.